Hello, everybody, and welcome to another esports talk session. And today we have a very special guest that I cannot wait to introduce. But before I do that, I'd just like to do a quick announcements for everyone. Just a quick thank you to everybody for your support. All of the following that we have here in our socials, all the likes, all the feedbacks, the comments, we thrive on all of that. Everything is made possible through your supports and efforts. Also, another announcement to make, our students have made it public that we are helping and dedicating all of our streams to a wonderful organization in Extra Life. And anything that you could do to help, there is no small donation of any kind, just anything that would help bring awareness and to help the children's hospital that we selected in Los Angeles. We have a donation button in our Twitch channel below where you can find that and learn more about what we're doing in our efforts. Okay, without further ado, our topic today, it's actually a special edition topic. It's Women in Games International, which I actually love to say this. In short, WIGI. And you can find the organization at www.getwiggy.com. And our special guest speaker is the CEO, Joanie Kraut, who's with us today. Joanie, welcome.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Yes, thank you for taking the time. Honestly, to get anybody to your stature, CEO, I'm imagining all the hats that you have to wear. So you're going to have to tell us how you even manage for that standpoint. But before we get into that, please share with us, like, how did you get your first introduction in gaming, if you will?
So I grew up in a household where we were always surrounded by gaming. Everything from my grandparents and extended family coming over to play cards for hours, to having a massive shelf dedicated to holding every board game you could think of, to being the house that everybody came to hang out at because my dad was super into tech and had all the gadgets. So we always had the handhelds and the consoles. And my mom was amazing at Tetris, and she taught me how to play Frogger back in the day. um, but it wasn't just this
Yeah.
concept of winning or losing or unlocking some achievement status or anything. It was this community and it was family. And I grew up with this extended gaming family, and that's what gaming has always really meant to me, is this community and this togetherness. And that's what really draws me into the games industry. And I've worked with a few different organizations and consulted with some smaller startups and nonprofits over the years. And that's when I came across Wiki. So Women in Games International is working to normalize women in the games industry. And the mission just spoke so strongly to me that I knew I wanted to be part of that team.
Mm.
So I started as CFO, and then I just was promoted to CEO in October.
Oh, wow. Well, first of all, congratulations, obviously. And
Thanks.
there's so much in there that you just shared, Joni, that I love how you even introduced it. It's, beyond the video game aspect, just the gaming. Let's focus on that, the cards, the board games, even the games that, that essentially ties and binds us all, through a lot of collaborative play. I love that. And that's so cool that you grew up in a household that embraced that, especially in those moments. And yeah, I totally agree with you how it embraces and builds the community. That's really awesome. And so um, now, Women in Games International, when did that organization start? And you mentioned something there earlier, how the industry was needing something like this. So, how did that conversation happen? How did you hear about it? And please, if you don't mind sharing.
Yeah, absolutely. We started as a concept in 2003. A few different specialty groups at different organizations in the industry kind of went, why? We don't really feel like we have enough representation. And
Mm.
there's just not enough opportunity to celebrate all of the amazing things that women in the industry were already currently doing,
Mm.
as well as creating that networking opportunity. Do you know every woman? If there's not that many women, you should probably know all their names, right?
Right.
So we became an add-on conference in 2005, and it was based on really creating that recognition through awards and that networking, again, that community and that building and that ability to share your concerns or your frustrations and see that other people were
Mm,
facing the same ones, as well
mm,
as
mm,
learn how to deal with them. How are you dealing with this very specific situation that I'm currently now facing? Somebody probably already went through it. Somebody probably already,
mm,
or at least can help you talk through it. And so, um, finding that community and finding that space was really the main goal of when we first started. And we started in Texas, and then we became a nonprofit and based out of Los Angeles. And we've evolved over the years, but we are now known for our two of our biggest things that we're known for is our newsletter, our weekly newsletter, or it's called the Wiggy Weekly. It
mm,
goes out every Wednesday to about 10,000 professionals in the industry. And then our networking events, mostly after E3 in Los Angeles and after GDC in San Francisco. And there are these over the top, really cool networking events with themes and just we've had a circus theme with people actually hanging from the ceiling on silks
yeah,
and the derby. You want a roller derby one where people were jumping over people on roller skates. Um, but it's
yeah,
again that community aspect, and just it brings in the best of the best. It's a free event. We want everyone to have access, and then
mm,
creating that networking opportunity. If you walk into a room filled with people, you will tend to gravitate towards people who look like you,
mm,
because in your mind they're going to think like you, they're going to agree with you, and
mm,
it's going to be easier to converse with them. We want to break that barrier. We want to break that stereotype, and we want to introduce somebody who looks nothing like you.
mm.
And if they don't agree with you, use that to build your game, to build your organization, and to make it a better organization, because they're not going to agree with you every time. They're going to have a very different perspective and a different upbringing, and maybe challenge your thought process. So that's really what our networking events are focused on.
Gosh, that's amazing. First of all, Joanie, that's so cool that, Wiggy has taken that initiative to provide those safe spaces to have those conversations, because I'm sure they're not comfortable, right? You're sharing something deep that you're currently experiencing and consistently, and to the point that to even be able to share out, that there's a lot of effort into that process alone, which it's no easy feat. It's not like, hey, just dump your suggestions here. No, there's a lot that has to be unpacked. So I wanted to ask a little bit, like, how does that process unfold for Wiggy? Like, what's helped Wiggy get a lot of that process done, especially if somebody is new trying to enter that space?
Yeah, I'd say if you're trying to enter the space, throw your hat in the ring. Really just do it. Apply for that job, even if you're not 100% of the qualifications. Having that conversation. A lot of times when people are building out their job descriptions, they think you need the certification and they think you probably want these specific years of experience, but when they see the things that you've done in less time, that might still be very appealing. As you have a conversation with the hiring manager, you might also say, I know you think I need X, but I actually have Y, Z, and these are way more powerful than just X. And a lot of times having those conversations is really kind of opening doors for yourself. Make sure that you are prepared. So we do have workshops. We're really pivoting into this new space where we want to empower you to have your toolkit. So resume review workshops, tips and tricks for interviewing. The ability to feel confident when you walk in that room is going to be a really big deal, or that Zoom room as it is
Yeah,
now,
yeah,
maybe.
the
But
infamous breakouts.
exactly. And then networking is so huge. Sometimes it's not what you know, but who you know. And that is so true.
Mm,
And having a mentor or a sponsor or a coach, someone who's advocating for you and someone who can speak to your abilities is really huge. So I would definitely say start networking, start getting your name out there, creating your own brand. Make sure if somebody Googles you, it's who you want represented as who you are.
so many good points. So true. And I just want to reiterate them. Yeah, it really does take that. And it's really neat. From what I'm hearing, there's a lot of career explorations, even in entering in a space like Wiggy. Now, does somebody need to be into games per se, let's say, or is this all trade of games, if you will?
So I think it's helpful if you're passionate about the industry you're entering, for sure. I don't think you have to be a certain level of expertise. For instance, I love Gears of War, but I'm constantly getting blown up. So, like, does that mean I can't work with that industry? No, no,
No,
definitely
no.
not.
Right.
And I think the cool thing about the games industry is it's so big. It's not just can you beat Mario. It's there's so many different variations of games and different medias of, like you said, like board games to esports to video games to card games. There's so many different genres and areas that you can get into, and we're really working to normalize women across not only all of those medias but also all of the categories that you can be in. So not just a game dev, but somebody in marketing, somebody in PR. If you have a legal background, there's definitely a need for a legal in the games industry. I'm in finance and accounting is kind of my background, and
Mhm.
uh, there's definitely need for finance, and especially with indie games and the bigger studios. So I would say I would prefer personally to be very passionate about the industry that I was entering, but you wouldn't have to know how to code to work in
Right.
the game studio necessarily.
No, no, I love that. And it just gives the opportunity to, like you mentioned earlier, to the fair equal access and even just to learn more about the space. That it doesn't throw the misconception of you have to be a high level rank of something, or you have to have played certain game titles to be in. It's really just being interested and even learning more. And even for those that are just finding out, hey, I didn't know I had a passion until I met a group of people that are very passionate, and it just ripples, right? Sometimes it becomes very contagious when you see a network like that thriving. That's awesome, Joni. That's really cool to hear what Wiggy is doing and what they're also continuing to do, and looking forward into the future as well. And so, what I wanted to ask you mentioned that your background's in finance. So, I'm assuming. So, how did that become? What was it that you got yourself into financing, and is that something that you've always had, direction in towards? And then, how did you balance, even college life and gaming too, if you don't mind sharing?
Yeah, sure. I actually started off in writing. I was writing for a local paper, and it just when writing became a chore and you had to hit a certain quota, it became a lot less fun. And so I sort of pivoted into finance. And when I was doing finance, it was really my husband, who was my boyfriend at the time, introduced me to World of Warcraft, and
Mhm.
playing Warcraft got me so much more comfortable with computers and technology. I used to be scared to hit the wrong button because I thought the computer would blow up. And so in Warcraft, you hit the wrong button so that the computer does, not the computer, but your enemy blows up. So um, I got a lot more comfortable with pushing buttons and trying new things and just the computer in general. I knew how to um, if I was lagging, or if there was an issue, I would have to research how to fix whatever the problem was. Because of that, in being in finance, it was about the time that we were pivoting from paper to uh, accounting systems, and
Right.
I was working with different companies where some of these accountants were only used to doing things paper and pencil and
Mhm.
filing cabinets. And I came in and was able to help them find ways to use this new system and explain accounting to them using the system, because if they couldn't see some of the process, they would get nervous that it wasn't happening. And so showing them different ways to pull reports and things like that. So I kind of ended up in this like fintech space before fintech was cool, sort of a thing.
Yeah.
And from there, I kind of fell in love with data and just using numbers and data points to tell a story and
Right.
to explain a concept to somebody who, when you look at a balance sheet or a P&L and L and you just get overwhelmed and you're like, there's just a lot of numbers. I don't know what this is supposed to say. If you put it into a chart or a graph to explain it to somebody, I love being part of that aha moment of that,
Yeah.
like, oh my gosh, now it makes sense kind of a exciting thing. And I guess from there, that's when I started working with Wiggy as their CFO, but using those data points and finding ways to tell stories to people who are in the games industry, it's exciting because they understand stories. And so you can explain it to them in a kind of a different way. It's a lot more exciting to
Yeah.
have that background.
Gosh, Joanie, that's awesome. And you did I mean, from that, sorry, that story is so awesome to hear how it helped you even transition those skills into the work environment, and at an opportune time, how to help that work environment to transition to, an electronic format, right? Um, yeah, going from paper and pencil, to transition electronically, that's not quite easy when you set some practices in place. But that's really neat. Thank you for sharing that. And so, if I may jump into it, what is it that I know you mentioned some of the challenges? I mean, if you don't mind going a little bit in depth, what are some of the challenges currently being faced? What is it that Wiki's doing to address some of the current challenges? And what is it that you'd like to share for the community to look into um, as a whole?
So we're trying to identify as many barriers as we can and then crush them, just get rid of them. So I think there's definitely barriers to entry, but then there's also the incredibly low retention rate. So if you get somebody in the door, that's great, but then do you make them feel welcome and included?
Mm,
And people like to throw around the word diversity and inclusion, but inclusion is truly accepting someone and making them feel part of the team and part of that community. And so our biggest efforts right now are really to find ways to get women in the door, but also to find ways to help companies ensure that once they are in the door, they want to stay and they want to stay in that seat and then move up, right? Break
right,
those glass
right.
ceilings. So we're working on a few different projects. We've just rebranded and we are now a power logo. If you look at our logo,
Mhm.
and our slogan is "Power Your Career Through Wiki." So we're trying to find ways to help enable people by putting tools in their toolkit.
Awesome.
So one of the biggest barriers that we found is we don't have enough qualified applicants. Okay, I don't believe you, but I'm going to help you find them because maybe you're just putting your job description a little too aggressive, or maybe you're not promoting your job in somewhere that I'm going to look, right?
Right,
So,
right.
one of the things that we do with our newsletter is we have job postings. We want that posting as soon as somebody's going to post it for their company, it's in our newsletter so that we know that our community has access to that opportunity to be
Mm,
able to see that it's even available.
mm,
Then we're also trying to make sure that when you apply for that job, do you have your resume in order? Do you have your cover letter in order?
mm,
So that's another piece that we're working on right now is we're setting up workshops with different organizations that we're actually working with their HR and hiring teams. And so they're going to come to our community and say, this is what we look for in a resume for this position. This is what we look for in a cover letter for this position. Here are some interview tips and tricks. And then at the end of that, here are some jobs that we have open, or here's an internship that we have open. And use that very specific company recruiting team to help us define what it is that you would define as a qualified candidate. And so that's another barrier we're trying to just completely wipe out. We are also reaching out to universities and we want to do more with internships. So getting in front of universities and students who are looking to get into the games industry. There's a lot of internships right now that aren't being filled because nobody knows that they're available.
mm.
Or when you apply, maybe your resume is lacking some of the content that they were hoping for to work with somebody to propel them into the industry. And so we're working again with those specific teams that are setting up internships to have these courses where this is what we want to see on your specific resume, and then this is how you apply for our internship, and this is what it would entail. And getting those opportunities out there, I think, is a really big deal. Um, I'm talking a lot. I'm so sorry,
No, no,
but
no. This is good. This is good.
okay.
I'm totally like into it right now, and yes, there's certain points that I do want to touch on, but this is brilliant. Continue, Johnny. I mean, I'm like thinking, yeah, the fact that I'm hearing so many connecting dots to get the community to say, hey, we've got to bring those opportunities forward, and at the same time help those that essentially now are basically now discovering those opportunities. Now, how do we help them? And I love the word that you keep using is toolkit. Yeah, it's really putting even the right tools in that toolkit to say, hey, this is what HR is looking for, that are going to be key to essentially help you get or warrant those interviews that will provide those opportunities, in turn. but sorry, I was really into it. I'm thinking, yeah, this all makes sense to me. And all I can think of right now, honestly, Joni, like, even in my days in college, that, internships are huge, to
Yeah.
combine education and experience. I mean, it just prepares you. And during that time of internship, you totally gain a lot of the skills, and even what you're learning, get to practice them. It's not all, one-sided. It's really multidimensional. So I'm sorry, this is great. I love where it's going.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's great to hear too. And that's the other thing too, as we continue to pivot, we're developing these programs, we're developing
Yeah,
these workshops, and we want to know what it is that we can do to support people. Like, you tell us the barrier that you see, and we want to help you tackle it. So, one other really exciting initiative that we're working on is the Get in the Game scholarship program, and we are working with a couple different larger games conferences to provide people the opportunity, not just for a free ticket, but also a round trip airfare, a hotel accommodations, a food per diem, and we're working with Dress for Success. They're going to meet people and do different interview. Like virtual sessions to give them tips and tricks on their specific personal style and how they want to look. And then there's also an opportunity to receive donated clothing as well. So uh, we found that some of these barriers, even if you had a free ticket to a conference, can you afford to get there?
right.
If you did get there, are you confident enough to walk into that room based on your wardrobe that you have right now? These are all barriers that we're just trying to just, knock out one after another. So that's another initiative that I'm really excited about. We're also focusing on mentorship versus sponsorship versus coaching, and we're working on developing a long-term program that kind of focuses on what are all three of these things and how can you use them to help enable you to get ahead in the industry. And again, that comes back to networking, but not just passing out your business card, truly having a network and using those connections to assist you with your career and make sure that it's a mutually beneficial conversation between you and the people you're networking with.
Gosh, that's so amazing. That is so cool. I mean, I love the mindfulness that I'm hearing just out of Wiggy, and what the organization has done. It's the people, right? It's putting people first and being able to be even conscious enough to say, hey, here's one step, but we know there's multiple little steps to get to that one step. And I love what you shared earlier. It's like, yeah, you can have this free ticket, but does it mean that you're ready for the interview? Do you, I mean, there's all these questions that start to pop up, because it led to receiving a ticket, right? Or receiving that invite. And, that's really awesome to hear that the community embraces that. And I'm sure that's something that came out of, from the community. It's something that, hey, these are concerns, these are what we experience. How do we feel more sure? And when you titled it earlier, crushing all barriers. I mean, I love that. That's completely what, Wiggy is pursuing, and other organizations to start adopting more models like that, or just quite frankly collaborate and join join forces to crush, what I mean, these barriers that that face us right now. But doing all of the, like the outcomes from what has led to this point. I mean, it's obviously evolved from 2003, to where we're at now. Gosh, it's almost going to be 20 years old.
I
What
know.
have you seen? I know that's going to be amazing. It's going to hit a milestone, very soon. What have you seen that has, grown over those past years that, you're extremely proud of?
We are extremely proud of the fact that we do have more females already in the industry. We
Mm,
have continued to grow our community, which means we have so much interest, and it's global, and that is so powerful to have, people all over the world that are interested in supporting us through allyship or being part of the community as someone who feels like an underrepresented person. So we are very focused on building that community and making sure that, I mean, it's not just women, it's definitely the allyship of men. And, it's definitely one of our proudest things is how many people we have supporting us and how many people we have that we are supporting. And so it's that constant, merry-go-round of once you are in the C-suite and you want to give back to people who are trying to enter the space. Um, that's one of our biggest takeaways is somebody who wanted in the industry, came to us for support. We help them get not only in the industry but up to the top of the industry, And then they came back and said, okay, now I want to help. How can I do this for somebody else? How can I be a mentor to somebody who's looking to get in the door? How can I sponsor somebody who's looking to go from, up into the C-suite? How can I help? And that, I think, is one of our biggest kind of flexes is having that kind of community and that level of support for each other that is constantly evolving and growing, not just in numbers but in strength.
That is so cool. What I'm hearing is a 360 there. You know what I mean? Where you started, how it's helped you, and just navigate to how it's elevated you into a position where you feel like you can give back. And obviously, the community is strong in numbers, and it's showing that it's a proven model that if you join forces with a mission that is essential to actually look into and to see whether you're a woman or not, you know what I mean, to help push this forward because the challenges are real. And as we know, challenges change, and some of these challenges evolve into something else um, that warrants the attention. But that's awesome. And so, just from its beginning process, you entered in sort of in the beginning phase, or did I mishear that? Is that where you started your Wiggy, you know, um, entrance, if you will?
Oh, so I was a CFO and then I became a CFO. So I did not, but it is something that I wish I had. I think my career trajectory would have been very different if I had been part of Wiggy when I first started in the games industry. I actually left the games industry, but continued consulting with smaller organizations and nonprofits. So I was trying to keep my foot in the door, but focus more on my career outside of the games industry. I think at a certain point, I didn't think it mattered what industry I was really in. It just was a paycheck and a title, and work was work, and work was a four-letter word. But now that I am in, doing this work with Wiggy, and there's so much more passion. It's just kind of that idea that it's such a different job when it's no longer a job, right? It's fun, and you want to be part of it, and you want to support what the work is helping. And so when you said, do you need to have gaming experience to be in the games industry? No, but I think you should definitely go into an industry that you're passionate about, because then it's going to be less work and more of this exciting opportunity every time that you are introduced to a new project, or you start working on a different game. Instead of being like, oh, another one of these, it's going to be like, yes, another one. So I think that for me is
That's
definitely the biggest beat.
that's awesome. And Joe, I mean, you spoke like a true CEO. Honestly, a person in that leadership position. So, being CEO, I mean, it's not a quite easy, situation to be. But at the same time, having that passion that fuels you to get over any kind of obstacle or hurdle that comes the way, you're able to do it with that support, and it helps to have a community to also to fall on if you needed that. So if you don't mind, I mean, just take us into your role and your position a little bit. What is it that you do for Wiggy as a whole? Um,
Yeah, sure. So when I started as CEO, we were in this very new world of COVID and virtual space. And
yep.
so we are working very hard to pivot into a way that we can still make a meaningful impact for the community with just virtual meetings. And we obviously do want to go back to in person as soon as we can, because we do feel like that is very beneficial to everyone involved. But I think for me personally, it's kind of like the more you know, the more you don't know.
Mm,
And I think when you first start your career, you think the CEO just knows everything. They just have an answer to everything. People on C-suite just are these masterminds. And there's this fear of, I could never be that title, because that title knows the answer to so many things. And the more I'm in this role, and the more that I'm, exploring different ways that we can do things, it's really building yourself and surrounding yourself with the community and the people that you can ask questions. Our board of directors is incredible, and anytime I have an issue that I run into that I need somebody as a thought partner, I know that I have my team that I can reach out to. So, Amy Allison has such great experience because she's been with Wiggy for 10 years. Monica has been here and she's been in the industry for so many years. And so we have this executive team that we depend on each other as thought partners, and it's never just one person going into battle alone. It's always, your strongest people are surrounded by strong people. It's having your back. And then our board of directors, again, just being a thought partner and having that ability to reach out to so many different people with different backgrounds and different expertise, is so huge and so pivotal in trying to navigate what it is that we want to do. And I think 2020 was a really great opportunity for us to take a step back and really say, who do we want to be helping? Who do we want to target for support? What specific things are we trying to do? And then really reshape the organization to meet those goals. So it's definitely been a team effort and a collaborative,
Yeah.
group. So that's
No,
that's been my favorite part.
gosh, that's well said, and awesome. I mean, you're totally right. I can completely agree with you. Not that I've ever been in a CEO's shoes, but essentially, what people think typically it's they've got to be the mastermind, right? They've got to know every answer, and it's comforting to hear that too, because yeah, it can, I don't know, for lack of a better word, scare people, right? It's like, oh, I can never do that, but in reality, you probably can do more than you think. And it doesn't, again, this whole barrier sometimes come in our minds too. It's like, okay, there's more barriers here, and then how do we essentially take that first step so that we're aiming towards those goals, and even having conversations around the goals too, which is very impactful as well, to know where you're going. And I was just going to share too. So 2020, I mean, it's the year that everybody wants to forget. um, it's, obviously presented a lot of challenges. What have, I mean, it's really neat to hear that Wiki has taken a step back and then even address what they're doing now. What other findings did you, as an organization, found out as well in 2020?
We found that we previously weren't as engaged as we wanted to be on social media, and so that was something that we really took to heart because that is obviously a place where a lot of gamers love to be. I mean, it's all part of that tech, right? Mindset. And so we brought on Lynn, who is our social media person, and she has completely developed this voice for Wiggy, and we now have a social media and we're making sure that we are, following people who are supporting our mission and doing the same type of work that we are. And we also found that there are so many organizations out there who are making an impact and who are just as passionate as we are and trying to move forward with the mission of normalizing women in the industry and opening doors and creating opportunities. And so it's been really cool to work with different organizations rather than trying to reinvent the wheel. It's, hey, IGDA has an incredible program. If you're in dev, you should really be part of IGDA. We're not going to try and recreate that because they've already got it covered, but we can help promote them. We can give them our platform and our spotlight to redirect people over to their organization and to have that collaborative effort. And I think that's really what 2021 is all about for us, is those
Yeah.
partnerships and making that meaningful impact of, we see you, we see what you're doing, we support you, and we want to support you very, very visibly. And so we're actually launching a partnership program in 2021. It'll start next month in February. And each month has a different theme, and we're highlighting a different nonprofit in the gaming space that is making an impact in STEM and gaming communities. And so I think that that's been our biggest.
Mhm.
We want to be not only our community, we also want to diversify our diverse community. And we want to make sure that everybody knows the opportunities and options that are out there, even if we're not the ones holding the workshop or running the program. If it's something that we support, we want to make sure that, again, that access and that opportunity is there for everyone to join in on that.
Gosh, I love that. Yeah, and so neat to take that approach too, right? It's to say, hey, as it is in life, right? We operate so fast, that sometimes we don't take that time to reflect And it seems like that was a lot of reflection time to strategize for what 2021 embarkings are going to look like. And yeah, that's how you grow communities. What I'm hearing, it's putting yourself in a position to partner and provide those various platforms that essentially help get the word out, and put people in highlightable positions, so that way it brings the work forward. So that's really neat. That's awesome. And so a big thing that you mentioned earlier about the internships and then preparing the students with toolkits. I mean, that was something that 2020 cause a disruption into the internship world, especially for those that are in the college scene. Even just, I'm thinking about high school students that couldn't get into programs because nobody was really prepared to do this remotely. So the fact that you guys are putting a lot of efforts into this to generate more internship opportunities to help recover really what happened last year is going to be a great deal of help. But even just some of those challenges, now you guys feel that we're pursuing virtual. It's almost like, hey, we're looking at the pulse like everyone else in the world to see when we're going to be coming back to our normal. What neat and exciting events do you guys have planning that is coming up forward that you're able to share?
So we're definitely excited about the Get in the Game Scholarship Program. So that would definitely be something that we're hoping can be in person. It is potentially a hybrid event for GTC. So it might be something that is both virtual and in person. We're hoping that that kind of potentially creates an ability for people to gain access that maybe otherwise couldn't. Somebody who maybe couldn't leave their home can now attend a
Right.
conference virtually. That would be amazing.
Yeah, for me.
Uh, we are also in the process of building out a few different programs that we are excited to launch as soon as we have the right funding and support. And we are also excited to again be doing this partnership program. So I think the biggest thing for 2021 is really finding ways that we can make that impact and really reaching out to our community to say, we want your feedback, we want to hear you, we want your voice,
Yeah.
and asking people to come to the table, not just to be a statistic, but to truly be a thought partner and someone that is contributing to our work and making sure that we are moving everyone forward in the right direction. It's always great to find new communities. I think the fact that we're all online right now has really opened eyes to some of the barriers that we didn't even know existed, and it's given certain people the opportunity to feel like they also can join a conversation that maybe they hadn't been online as much as they are now, and now they're comfortable enough to jump onto Twitch and create an account, or to even just jump onto social media and find new groups of like-minded people and find those communities.
Gosh, yeah, that's so true. I agree. So many undiscovered talents, gifts, and even just putting yourself in a position where you're finding new groups to associate with, because they're fall in line with the mission. And so having that obstacle, how is it that if I may ask, how does Wiggy get their gaming on? Knowing that, hey, we can't meet everyone at Joanie's house right now.
I know. That's the worst because we used to do morning nights. Um, so we do Discord and we do Zoom, and we just have we also have a Slack channel going, and so we're constantly trying to just send each other goofy gifts, and we have email, and we have everybody's got their phone numbers, so we're texting people constantly too. So it still has that community vibe, but yeah, I definitely can't wait for hugs. Definitely.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome, Jody. So yeah, when everything is said and done, you're gonna have to send a mass blast out. Everyone, Johnny's house. That's your first
Seriously,
stop.
let's go. D&D game all night, whiskey, let's go. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
Another
That's
really cool opportunity actually is we're
uh,
working with the Gig, which is the games industry gathering, and they have their own Discord channel. And there's over, oh, I think 3,000 people. I don't know. I might have made that up,
yeah.
but it's every Friday there's an opportunity to do these breakout sessions, and you get put into a separate breakout room with so many people, and everybody introduces themselves, and you can make new connections. And everybody's in the games industry or trying to get into the games industry, so it's a really great opportunity there too.
That's really cool. Thank you for sharing that. That's awesome. Any way to keep promoting great organizations that are doing lots of great connections and networking events, that truly helps anyone, whether you're a college student or not. That's always a great way to put your step forward and to get the word out. Like you said, hey, everybody will always say, "I wish I knew it sooner," right?
Right.
Wish I had this when I was, blank here. You know what I mean? Insert age here.
Yeah.
um, but that's awesome, and to see the organization thrive and to see it grow, and just seems to be always leading on the edge of how can we make the biggest impact. Those are the key components that I constantly hear, and just from you, Joanie, that makes this organization really special. And so, for somebody that wants to join, I mentioned the website, but is there anything that they need to do specifically?
Yeah, so if you go to getwiggy.com, we do have a weekly newsletter that goes out every Wednesday. We try to highlight the top stories, especially those impacting women within the games industry. We also have partnerships listed there, and we have job opportunities listed there as well. You can follow us on social media. We are at getwiggy, and we would love to hear from you. If you have any input, info@getwiggy is our mailbox that is constantly checked, and we would love to partner with you or work with you or collaborate with you. We also have some really great volunteer opportunities. We have a I think Amy calls it our grab bag, our volunteer grab bag.
Mhm.
And we just have these little projects that are like, oh, I'd love to do this one day, but we don't have the time or the expertise, or
Mhm.
sometimes both. So we would love the opportunity to work with people who are interested in getting some experience within the industry. Reach out, let me know.
Mm.
Let me know what you're interested in working on, and I'll see what project we have that we can kind of toss your way and help you through. So always excited to get fresh meat here.
Yeah, that is so cool. I mean, the fact that, I mean, and again, you're like breaking it down for us. Like, you're the CEO, for the fact that you're so open and available to help people like that. I mean, again, it breaks down a stigma of what it is to, hey, to be in a position like this, that you're able to support and help. And then, this is a question for you, Joni, about, hey, those that are in, I'll just say, in high school or middle school, and they don't have necessarily a gaming org or an esports org of sorts, but do game to a level, they have passions around it. Are they able to essentially, reach out to see if there's a way to build community that way, just so that they are informed of, hey, these are some industry people that they didn't have esports growing up. Esports
Right.
is fairly new, in certain aspects. And so, how do you essentially start pursuing things and start listening to really the voices of these professionals to say, hey, I was once in your shoes. Here's what led me to this journey. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, sorry, I was going to say, is there some way for students of that nature to listen in and to incorporate some of, hey, this is something really neat to know and learn? Or would it be the subscribing of the newsletter that would really bring a lot of this into face, so that parents can essentially take a look at this and say, hey, I want to support my child through this method. Seems like this is an interest. Maybe I should get into that involvement.
Yeah, I would definitely say get your parents involved for sure. I have a 14-year-old son, and I know more about Fortnite than I actually. Um,
There you go.
but yeah, I would definitely say start, create a Twitch channel. You don't have to stream, just start following people who you do enjoy, and start to understand what it is that you enjoy about that content in that community. Um, I know in high school, when I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do career-wise, one of the things I did was I started looking up job descriptions at companies that I was interested in working at. So what's your favorite gaming company? Go see what their job description is,
Mhm.
and then determine, w- read the job description and see, is that a job that you're interested in? Maybe you're more into marketing or PR or game dev, and then see what certifications, what college education is required, what is the minimum qualifications to be in that job. And don't just look at the entry level jobs, also look at, the higher jobs,
Mhm.
the C-suite jobs, look at the mid-range jobs. Figure out what it is that you want, and then those goals will help you determine your next steps. So is it pursuing jump into Photoshop, jump into a free workshop. There are so many free workshops right now, especially with COVID. I would say definitely start playing, start trying, start seeing where your passion is, see where it leads you, and you can go in one direction and then completely pivot and go in the other direction. Especially if you're in high school, you have so much time, so just play with
Yeah.
everything and see where it leads you. And then absolutely, I think networking is so important. So I mean, create a LinkedIn profile and start looking at other people's
Mm,
LinkedIn. I know
mm,
eFuse is huge
yeah,
for community, and it's kind of becoming this new platform
mm,
for social media, but specifically for the games industry. So
mm,
try out that, see who you can connect with there, and reach out to people, but make sure you have specific questions. So if you ask somebody for a 5-minute phone call, don't expect them to lead that phone call. Make sure that you have specific questions that you want to know answers to, and if you don't, just feel free to follow them and follow them for content.
yeah,
um, and then if the question is why are you interested in this job, or why are you um, interested in this company, or how did you get this role, make sure
mm,
you have very specific questions so that they can help you and they can guide you when they do connect with you. But if you just call somebody and you're like, hey, I just want to talk because I wanted you to know my name and I wanted to know your name, okay. Make sure that
right,
it is
right,
a connection
right.
that you're mutually beneficial. Like, have the
Yeah.
content there.
No, no, well said. Well said. Yeah, make that connection intentional. And
Yes.
like you said, before even meeting, just it would be good to have some notes, so you don't forget what you're going to ask. And I love what you said earlier too about even during this time of COVID, that there's so much free workshops out there. It's just a matter of honestly searching for them and being able to, what you said earlier, is play, right? There's a lot of learning through play that happens, and I think that's really the aha moments that people find, especially, if you're in academia or if you're a parent that has kids of that age or any age really. It's to say, hey, they're discovering something completely different that, yeah, was beyond my timeline, quote unquote.
Oh yeah.
Doesn't mean you can't join. Something that you shared earlier, Joni, it's like, gosh, I wish I was at Joni's house earlier. I mean, your whole family would play games, and there was a lot of learning through that experience, and a lot of it's the collaboration and the enjoyment factor that comes with it, because you leave with a positive experience to then warrant more of that. Hey, I want to do more of that so that I can keep growing and learning. And you're not really, you're not doing with that quote unquote intent. It just happens complementary because you're really focused more on the play factor, if you will. So that's well said. I was just piggybacking on what you said earlier, and I just thought, hey, that's brilliant. Especially when you're in that age and you're trying to discover a lot of the new spaces and what you're going to be doing to connect with people, because this age really brought into light that we're very much in a digital age, and there's many ways to connect, and you just named a lot of different pathways people can take. So that's awesome. Gosh, Jody, this has been amazing. This is where I usually pivot over to having you to share some words of wisdom, which you've already done so much throughout all this time. But if you could take us home and provide us with some words of wisdom, that would be awesome.
Okay. No pressure.
No pressure. I know, seriously, no pressure.
Okay, words of wisdom. Okay, I would say the biggest thing for me is never stop learning. Never feel like you're the smartest person in the room, and if you are, get out of that room. Um, Ask every question. Do your research so you're not just asking the same questions over and over, but make sure that you sit at a table and you bring your voice to that table. Don't just sit there and make sure that you're part of the conversation. And try it, do it, whatever it is. Throw your hat in the ring, put your resume down for that job, even if you don't think you're qualified. Try it and get in the game.
Love it. I love it. Honestly, Joey, thank you so much. Your words, your time to share with our community. And again, just all the efforts that you are doing, and really the whole Wiggy organization. Big thank you to you all for doing the work that you're doing and continuing on forward. And so I know we got to get in touch sometime closer, this year, just because there's just tremendous projects and opportunity there. So I commend you for all the work that you're doing. This is awesome. Thank you so much what you're doing for the community in the gaming space, and for those that are just, hey, I'm discovering that I do like gaming. This past year, I realized I'm good at this game or that game. And you might start pivoting into a new industry that may warrant, your attention. So thank you again, Joanie, for being in our program. And we have to do it again sometime soon.
Thank you so much. I enjoyed it.
Awesome, awesome. To everyone else, thank you so much for joining us, and take care until the next session. Appreciate you. Bye bye.